Hi, this is Julie from Fun Mechanic Designs. Today I'm cutting some Kingman Turquoise. I bought these beauties from Colbaugh Processing. They were at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show at the venue G&LW. I will be cutting a few different slices of these, shaping the rough, and then I'm gonna select one of them to show you how I polish it, and then I'm gonna make a ring. These beautiful rocks are called Turquoise Mountain, and they are Kingman stabilized turquoise, and they were from the $500 a pound bin. Some lapidary artists will prefer working with natural turquoise, and others will prefer stabilized. I like both for different reasons. I'm used to working with angel wing veracite. This veracite is really good quality. There's no cracks. It's really easy to cut and polish. And for turquoise, I've only tried a few natural ones, but some that seems really hard, good quality, have cracks sometimes. So when you go with the stabilized, it's not as pure because it has a bit of plastic in it, but it's gonna stay together when you cut it, and it polishes really well, and I can drop it on the ground and it's not gonna break apart. So you have positives and negatives on both sides. This piece is really one of my favorite because it has so many different colors and shapes, patterns. I ended up cutting it in half and making 2 cabochons with it. When I started out cutting turquoise, I was making bigger cabochons because it was easier. Then I didn't know how to incorporate it into my jewelry because it didn't fit the style. I wanted to make something inspired by nature with smaller stones. But now that I've been practicing a bit more, I'm willing to try bigger pieces and smaller pieces just to see what I can end up making. I'm gonna make bigger pieces probably with turquoise and veracite, and then for the smaller pieces I'm gonna do spectralites, labradorites, and peristerites for the moment. Now let's pick one to polish and make a ring. I purchased last year 2 books, and one was offered to me by my boyfriend. It's Turquoise in America, part 1, 2, and 3, and I suggest you purchasing them because they're so resourceful. You have a lot of different stories. They talk about different mines and prospectors. They also showcase so many beautiful jewelry in there. So I was reading about the Turquoise Mountain. Here in the description you'll find the website to purchase your own. I'm almost done. I just need to do a little bit of polishing at the end, and I'm gonna be ready to make my ring. Now let's delve into the art of fabrication. In this piece, there's not gonna be any casting. It's only made with different wires or sheets. So this bezel is 5 millimeters, and the thickness is a 24 gauge. If you take something that is too thin, I don't think it's gonna be enough for a ring. You need something that is sturdy enough because you're gonna hit it on different things. And it's not like a pendant. A pendant you can go with a 26 or even a 28 gauge sometimes. Your bezel thickness will also depend on the size of your stone. If you go with a small stone, you can be okay with a thin bezel, but if you go with a big stone, then you need something thicker. When I do lapidary, I'm always inspired by the rock. I rarely have an idea in my mind that is set for a specific shape unless I have a special order. And I'm inspired then by the shape of the stone to create the jewelry. For this one, I ended up making something very long, and I thought, oh, let me look into what I have. And I found rings that I soldered maybe like 3-4 days ago that were just hanging there on my bench. and I took two of them to put together and make kind of planetary rings. It is a minimal ring, but with a retro futuristic twist on it. Making a ring is just like any other visual arts. You need to incorporate patterns, lines, colors, and empty space. My background is in music and visual arts, and I've tried a lot of crafts as well. And jewelry making, silversmithing, gold smithing is really my favorite because I find that there's so many different tools, techniques, and you can always go back, remove something, add some things with soldering. It's kind of forgiving. It's not like, let's say, watercolor. Sometimes you can try to remove some pigments, but you can also sometimes damage the paper. I really enjoy sharing my passion for jewelry making. So 5 years ago, when I opened my studio store, I wanted to teach beginner classes of jewelry making, but the thing is that I haven't been making that much money because we only have enough to cover all the expenses, the employees and the supplies and beautiful art I purchased to showcase other people's work. I want to be better at applying for grants because I want my whole space to have good ventilation for future classes. Before I start teaching in real life, I want to do classes on YouTube for people to learn the basics of jewelry and the basics of lapidary. I also want to do some prospecting in Quebec and in Ontario and to go to museums and shows. So now that the bezel is at a perfect height, I will polish the ring and then oxidize it and then set it. Let's do some little stampy stamps. All shiny, polished. But now I'm gonna oxidize it with liver of sulphur. Now that I'm ready to set the stone, I'm gonna do north, south, east, west as I'm hammering, so I keep the stone centered and I go around. It's not easy on the edges, on the two opposite ends, because the metal is harder to push, so you have to be careful not to break your stone or scratch it. But it's kind of fun to work with the Verisites and turquoise because you can always repolish the tiny scratches with Zam. When I'm done setting the piece, I use a yellow silicone to remove the scratches, and the soldering didn't oxidize well with liver of sulphur, so I'm using a cold oxidation solution. It's a type of acid, and you have to be careful to wear a glove and ventilate your area. And when you're done, clean everything really well. I'm using baking soda just to make sure that everything is neutralized. I remove by hand some oxidation, and then I'm gonna go to the polishing lathe to make it shine. Polishing is really one of the most satisfying techniques in jewelry making because everything is coming together. I think this one is like a size 9 1/4. It's a bit big for me, but let me know in the comment section if you know your sizes. What are they? When I saw David's shirt, I was like, oh, you need to wear the ring for my video because it fits your t-shirt so well. Come to my ship and let's travel together to the beautiful world of turquoise.